Hello, I'm Jessica Palmer. I'm an artist. I work with paper and I also draw. You might know some of my Search Press books, The Art of Paper Cutting, Tanglewood colouring book are also my books. At the moment I am making a lot of collages and I'm going to show you a time lapse today of compiling and making a collage. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so here's what I'm going to need for my collage of irises. This is my inspiration. This is a painting by the gardener and plantsman Cedric Morris, who was working in the 1930s and 40s, I think predominantly, and I'm going to use this not to copy it, but to give me a palette of colours, the blues and creams and yellows and almost browny purples. I'm going to work on a watercolour background, not this colour, but this is just a piece of paper to give you an example. And very often what I'll do is I'll use acrylic ink, or I'll use watercolour paint and make a background which is a wash of different tones. I'll need a glue stick for putting things into place, and I'll also be using this Liquitex matte gel medium for pasting things onto the background. And then I'll be cutting my shapes based on the beautiful sweeping curves of the Cedric Morris irises from a sequence of papers that I've painted using brushes, sponges and splashes of watercolour ink or acrylic paint. I use all of them mixed up together in different ways, and I'm going for different tones, different depths of tone, brightness, darkness, to build up my picture. You'll also obviously need some scissors. I've got good old kitchen scissors here. I've also got a pair of barber's scissors, which are very neat and fit well into my hand and comfortable to use. So whatever scissors you have to hand and you prefer, it's entirely up to you. So those are our ingredients, if you like, for the recipe for making the iris collage. So I'm going to show you how I go about cutting out the shape of the iris. This is the iris that I'm looking at as my inspiration for the moment. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals that are visible. Obviously in real life it would have more than that probably, but for now 5 petals will be perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 of the petals out of this lighter blue paper and the other 3 out of the darker paper, and then I've got some stems that I've pre-cut here from pale green, and I'll be using those to fix my petals together. So I've got my glue stick handy and I've got these 2 papers, and first of all I'm just going to draw the petal shapes onto the back of the paper. I'm starting with this one, and I'm going to try to mirror the curves and the shapes of the petal. That's that one. And then this one is, the thing about irises is they're very forgiving. They take on all sorts of shapes and sizes, so don't worry too much about it. Be confident in what you're drawing, and you can always amend it as you go along if you don't like what you've drawn. So now I'm drawing this one, which is sort of a bit like an elephant's ear or something like that. And irises always have these great big sort of dollopy shapes, which are fantastic, fantastically beautiful actually. So that's those 2, and then this one and they've got quite a lot of curl and so on around the edges. So now I'm going to cut these out, and it's important to add on a little bit extra for the stem to go into the top of the top of the stalk, which I've pre-cut here. So that's going to be my first one. So that's going to be that one. And in fact, it's going to come out in reverse because I've drawn them on the back of the paper. But again, that's not anything to worry about, because again, it makes it more your own and less that you are trying to mimic somebody else's artwork, because it's always really important to develop your own style and not to feel that you're just copying somebody else. And also this, I'm trying to make this bigger than the original, because my canvas will be bigger than this little A4 sheet. So I'm just sort of cutting right around the edge, the outside of the pencil line I've drawn. So the whole thing is going to grow somewhat, but again, not to worry about that. That's not at all important here. So that's going to be like that. And then I've just got these two others to cut out. And the paper that I'm using, in case you would like to know, is from Shepherd's Bookbinders in London, and it's actually called Bible paper. And I think it's called Bible paper because it's very thin, and it's only about 50 GSM, but it is particularly strong, and it works really well when you're painting paper or colouring it with ink or whatever you're doing. It just not the sort of paper that falls apart, but it will hold colour really well. So just make sure that you've got the whole fluid, lovely shape there, and then that is going to be that one. So we've got an iris shape starting to emerge, and I'm going to use glue stick to hold the petals together. And I use a glue stick for an awful lot of my artwork because it's very clean, and many of you have glue sticks at home, so it's very accessible, easy to get hold of, and it dries quite quickly. And if you're not wearing your best trousers, which I never am in my studio, then you can just rub it off on your trousers if you're wearing something not too special. So I'm putting this together quite loosely. I can take it apart. That's the other thing with a glue stick. Obviously you might get a little bit of tearing, but you can cut or take it apart if you feel that you want to later. So I'm going to add this one, sorry, to here, and then let's take that off there for the moment, and then put a little bit of glue onto here and fix. And now I'm just going to make a whole sequence of other irises along the same lines until I've got a sequence which I'll then put together in the next little video that you'll see.